An international search is now underway to try to locate a man who Gardaí say is a person of significant interest in relation to the death of Jamey Carney in Kerry. It appears Miss Carney, the mother of a teenage daughter, was violently attacked in her home in Killarney at some time late on Monday or early on Tuesday. Gardaí have contacted international law enforcement agencies, including Interpol and Europol. They believe the man they're seeking left the country and headed to the Middle East. Well, Josh Crosby is in Killarney for us tonight. And Josh, I know you've been speaking to people there today. What have they been saying to you?
Yes, Sarah. So I've been walking around Killarney here today, and even though we're in peak summer season, you can still feel that cloud of sadness that's come over the town. Jamey Carney and her daughter moved here from the US in 2021. I've actually been told today that Jamey's grandmother was born and raised in Muckross, just out the road from where I am now, and sadly the same general area of where Jamey's body was discovered. Since Jamey and her daughter came to Kerry, they became involved with the community, from local GA clubs to local volunteer groups, and every person you meet, from those who knew Jamey to those who didn't, they're all shocked and all wanting to pay their respects. Look, there are many who'd prefer not to go on camera due to the tragic circumstances and with her death being so recent. But when you talk to those who knew Jamey, they all say the same thing: a very open, very helpful and very trusting person. This is where they had built up their life, Sarah. They called Killarney their home. This is where they saw their future. And yes, there is a bit of resistance to talk in the town, but everyone wants to pay tribute to Jamey Carney. Here's what some of them have been telling me.
She was very positive, a loving mother, always, I suppose, very outgoing, always involved in the community. Her daughter played GA here over the local club, and I suppose she'd nothing but good to say about people, you know. Very outgoing and, again, very trusting.
There's a dark cloud over the town since the news broke on Tuesday afternoon, really. Everyone is in shock.
So how did you know Jamey?
Yeah, I suppose, first of all, she brought her daughter up here, and her daughter was keen to make friends and, I suppose, learn the game. And obviously it's well documented that she was really proud of her Irish background and whatnot. So when her daughter came up here, she quickly took up the game, became an integral part of the team, made friends, and she was just like any normal girl. Jamey then obviously brought her to matches, brought her up training, so we'd have known her on the sideline as well in that regard.
It's not something that you kind of associate with this time of year in Killarney, especially on Muckross Road. You know, you're usually met with tour buses and so on and so forth, and to be met with such a Garda presence, and it's just there's just an air of kind of, I don't know, uncertainty around the place. It's just a little bit of an odd feeling around the place.
And you live near where?
Yeah, I only live maybe 10 minutes around the corner from where it happened. I pass it every day, and yeah, it's not something nice to see. Also, the fact that it's kind of still an open case, I suppose, does make people feel a little bit nervous, you know.
Everybody's speaking about this. Yesterday we were driving with the taxist, and he told us, he showed me a house where she was living there. It's a very sad story.
And did you ever meet Jamey over the years here in Killarney?
Yes, I met her a couple times, yes. She was a nice girl, always happy, always smiling, always friendly.
And that was Josh Crosby in Killarney. Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to Jamey's cousin, Ryan Fox, in New York. And I started by asking him to tell me about Jamey and what she was like.
Well, the first thing that I can tell you about my cousin Jamey is that she's one of the sweetest, most caring, most humanitarian, most sensitive women that I've ever been blessed to know. We grew up almost like siblings, and Jamey was 1 year younger than me. She's a beautiful soul on the outside and in. Jamey will take off the shirt on her back to offer to someone if they needed it. Jamey has always been very proud of her Irish roots. She was looking for a beautiful country with like-minded people to raise her daughter. And we all have our problems. Jamey did everything the right way. She worked as hard as she could to offer everything to her beautiful daughter. Jamey came from a single-family household like myself. She had to crawl and scratch her way to earn everything she's ever had. I just want to say that I feel it's my purpose now to let everybody who might be watching know that Jamey, my cousin Jamey Carney, who was just killed, she had a heart of gold.
Can I ask you, Ryan, how did you hear the devastating news that Jamey had been killed?
Well, her mother, my Aunt Kathy, had called me very upset Tuesday evening, and she could barely get her words across, and she briefly told me what happened, and she asked me to contact the rest of our family. So I made the phone calls to our cousins, parents, siblings, anybody who's known Jamey. And so her mother, Kathy, and her sister, Devin, have flown to Ireland right now to deal with the authorities and to be with Jamey.
Did she ever give any indication at all that she was in danger of her life or in fear for her own safety?
I had never gotten any communication like that, because if I had, then measures would have been taken. I would have done whatever was in my power to protect her.
Can I ask you finally then, Ryan, what would you like to see happen now?
Well, to say the least, that is a very loaded question, but I will try to answer this in the most critically thinking, cognitive, and considerate way that I can. We are all people under God, and if we are born in different places on the earth, we all have different beliefs and different names for the people we believe in, and we are all, that is the way it should be. We are meant to share cultures and love each other and help each other under God. That's the way human beings are supposed to be. And I would like my cousin Jamey, if you think about her, if you see her picture, if you read her story, please, please know that all she ever wanted was for everybody to have equal rights. She wanted to raise her daughter in a nice place, like everybody intends to do, to raise a family and to be safe. And I want my cousin Jamey not to be known as some, wrongful loss to some kind of martyrdom or some kind of political cause. My Jamey was proud to be Irish and proud to be American, and everybody that's known her in America or in Ireland knows what a huge heart she has.
And she was very happy here in Ireland, wasn't she?
Jamey loves Ireland so much, and I will live with regret for the rest of my life for not making it out there, because she hasn't invited me, and Jamey could not love Ireland nor the people of Ireland. Her friends were like her second family out there. She could not love the land of Ireland more, and she was so proud and so happy to be there. And this was a second start of her life with her beautiful, intelligent daughter. And she was taken from the people that love her, and we're all going to do everything in our power to make sure that this doesn't happen to more people, because nobody deserves this.
Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us this evening, and I am so sorry for your loss. It's very clear how close you were to Jamey, and I'm so sorry for the loss for your entire family.
Thank you so much. I want to say God bless you. God bless the nation of Ireland, and do not use this to become bigoted or racist or prejudiced in any way.
Well, I'm now joined by former Assistant Garda Commissioner Michael O'Sullivan and Sarah Benson, CEO from Women's Aid. Welcome to you both. Very emotional there watching Jamey's cousin. We can't obviously talk about the details of this case or whatever, Michael, but from your own vast experience, in terms of law enforcement right now, what kind of police-to-police international cooperation might be going on?
Yeah, like over the last 10 years, the world has got a whole lot smaller with police-to-police cooperation. There's European arrest warrants, and then there's a lot of extradition treaties with countries heretofore we hadn't got them, such as the UAE, etc. So the world has become quite a smaller place that when people go missing or they try to evade justice, it is very difficult for them to disappear. You have to also remember that the police won't give up, that when warrants are issued for somebody for their arrest, it's with Europol, it's with Interpol, it's with all of the various police forces. On top of that, the guards have what they call GLOs, Garda Liaison Officers, in quite a number of countries, who would basically drive on the search for an individual, if necessary, working hand in hand with the local police to sort of expedite matters and to just basically drive it on.
So as you say, it must be almost impossible, is it, to Michael, to disappear these days, given all that cooperation? Yeah,
the ability to disappear also, like there are countries you could go to that are war-torn countries. There are countries like Russia and Iran and places like that you could certainly disappear to. But broadly speaking, it is extremely difficult. Again, it depends on the resources you have. We've had quite a number of organised crime members who had a lot of resources at their disposal, who went to faraway places and lived a very good life because of the money they had behind them, and even still they were tracked down and they were brought back. So it really is difficult, whether somebody books a flight or somebody moves to another jurisdiction. There's always that fear of a knocking on the door. They really have to be lucky all the time, and as I said, law enforcement only have to be lucky once.
And just before I go to Sarah, in terms of extradition, how easy or difficult is it to extradite if it's just for investigation rather than something more solid?
Extradition is primarily for charging an individual, and it's a complicated process. In some countries it is more streamlined. In European countries it has become more streamlined. And needless to say, the accused has the right to the legal process and to object to extradition, and very much depending on the country at hand and their laws, basically. But broadly speaking, it works quite well, and in the early days, any errors within the system have been fixed up, and broadly speaking, it is quite successful.
Sarah, I've spoken to you so many times about femicide, violence against women. Jamey Carney's name is on this roll call of women, and you're seeing increasing numbers all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, and obviously our condolences go to Jamey's family, but also to the families of all of the 8 women who have died so far this year through violence. That number has topped already the total number last year, which was 7 women. But since 1996, we've lost 286 women in this country to violence. That is coupled with the fact that just a couple of weeks ago, Women's Aid, which is a large domestic violence organisation, but far from the only one, launched our report from 2025, and we had again record numbers of contacts, nearly 38,000, over 62,000 disclosures of domestic abuse in just 1 year. So I think it just reminds us that this issue is still stark, it is still fatal in some cases, it tears communities apart, and something that, you know, the Joint Justice Committee today launched a report with recommendations on how to tackle gender-based violence. It just reminds us that we just cannot afford not to push forward with every possible effort we have.
Now, you'll be aware there are those people suggesting that maybe after a murder and a killing, that like the one that happened in Killarney, that we maybe need to relook at our immigration rules. Do you believe there's any validity to that suggestion?
I think I was struck very much by Jamey's cousin, who in the grief of his grief and his family's grief took a moment to remind us that we should not use incidents like this, incidents of fatal violence against women, to create any kind of a bigoted response to immigration. I don't see the correlation. It is increasingly being invoked, I would say, by a very small cohort, but who are using tools like certain social media platforms which have wild algorithms which disproportionately amplify this voice to create fear and dissent in our communities. But as a National Violence Against Women organisation, the vast majority of those nearly 38,000 contacts we had last year were with Irish women. And where there were migrant women, I think it's important to say that instead of looking at kind of prohibitive considerations around immigration, is to look at when you are a migrant in any country, and we've many Irish in foreign countries, you are more vulnerable because you may not speak the language, you may be dependent on your spouse for your visa, you may not have a community there, and that's what we need to look at in terms of supports.
A very quick final point, you both. Michael, you've vast experience as an Assistant Commissioner. What do you think the society could do to try and stop this violence against women?
Look, it's very difficult. I suppose it is seeing the telltale signs, really, and that's what it's about, and trying to empower the women who are being victimised. But very often, I'm sure Sarah will agree, that it's inside in the house, and a street angel, house devil type of approach, and that it is about people trying to lend support to the victim, and that's what's necessary to empower them, to enable them either to report it or to get assistance. I think that's what it is.
To contact people at Women's Aid. Well, last sentence to you, Sarah. What would be the key thing you want?
We just need to keep driving forward with protection, prosecution, coordinated policy and prevention like we have in our current national strategy, but more than anything, coordinated policy that sees this as an issue of gender-based violence.
I really appreciate you both coming in tonight, Michael O'Sullivan and Sarah Benson. Thank you.